Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. Welcome to the show, everybody. We got a great show for you today, and I do have to say, because we're a little earlier than normal, and it's a little earlier for Rochelle than normal, but she made it. She's quite a trooper, and thank you for being here, Rochelle. And would you like to tell everybody about Greatest Vibes? Greatest Vibes. What the hell's the name of the show that we're doing?
Yes. Yes, everybody go and listen. Me and Kevin have our music show up and going on the Brushwood Media Network at 9 a.m. on drive time. And go check it out. It's Greatest Vibes Unplugged. We tell stories about ourselves and what got us through our life in terms of music and memories that we have, and also sharing the meaning of music and how it brings us all together. So check that out. And today I'm very excited here. Yes, it is out of my normal time, but that is okay because this is very important to me. We have Greg Stevens here today, and I am more than thankful for this because he rescheduled when I couldn't be there originally. And so that's why we're doing this morning. He has a website called alignment-resources.com talking about navigating complex situations and impossible relationships. So this is going to be a really good show to start off our morning. And thank you, Greg, for being here. How are you today?
Rochelle, thank you for having me. I'm doing great today. Kevin, thank you for having me on the show as well.
I got to tell you, I don't know about anybody out there, but I've had some impossible relationships in my life, and I'm really excited to talk to you about perhaps a better way for us to negotiate through those issues and stuff. So it's great. I've been looking forward to this episode for a long time, and I know Rochelle has got a fistful of questions that she would love to ask you too.
I love that, and I'm here to do the best I can. And I might not have, most likely don't have any answers, but I have the ones that works for me. So I'll offer.
Well, there's no problem in that.
I'll offer up what I can from my experience.
Yes. Well, it's all about perspective, right? Yeah, you can take anybody's got a different answer for almost anything.
Exactly.
But my first question to start off the show is, what got you into wanting to do this work?
Well, thank you for the question, Rochelle. It's not something I sought out. It found me, and it found me by chance. I never thought I'd be an executive coach or a trainer or a mediator. Those are things in school, I thought I was going to be in sales my entire life. I enjoyed sales, but learning about human development, human behavior, human potential, I hired a life coach and was actually looking at going out to LA and doing some acting. And I had an agent, had a lot of things going. And my coach, I told him, I said, this doesn't seem to call to me like I thought it would. And he said, have you ever thought about doing what I'm doing? Coaching and training. And it's like, never thought of it. And I asked what I would need to do. He said, I think doing a real apprenticeship, not just doing something online, but really doing the work. And I did that with him for about 2.5 years. And he taught me a lot of things. He taught a man-woman relationship class. That's what I started. And then I ran into years later, some guys who eventually wrote a book called Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When Stakes Are High. And I ended up teaching their work, selling it, doing a lot of things with that. And as I taught it, I thought, I want to be the type of instructor that actually lives what they teach. And so I had this crazy idea, how can I do that? So I made a list of 36 different relationships that I needed to clean up because I wanted to stand in front of my classes with an experience rather than a theory about the work. And it took me 2.5 years to do that. And it launched my career as far as training, as far as coaching. And I've been doing it for more than about 26 years now. So love the work, but never thought I'd be doing this because I was the person that typically shied away from the conversations, or I'd wait until it just got too much and then I'd explode at the person. So I went from one extreme to the other. I didn't know how to do it, and doing it showed me that it's amazing what life can look like when you clean up your relationships, because there was a huge weight off my shoulders when I did that. And I tell people all the time, they say, oh, you're the relationship person. I struggle just as much as anyone else. And I love that I have these skill sets and tools, because I tend to be able to get things back on track a little faster. That's what I would say. I don't have to suffer as long. And so that's kind of how I got in the work I'm doing, and I love it. It's become a part of my life, and I love to lean into the conversations. Most people try to avoid conflict, but most people want to have breakthroughs in their lives. Here's the thing: you cannot have a breakthrough until there's conflict. So you have to break through something. It's that conflict. So if you can reframe that and look at, here's my opportunity to grow, here's my opportunity to find out what's really going on, rather than what I'm creating in my head, that hopeful, wishful thinking that I hope things would work out the way I want them to. Typically, when we avoid something, we think it's going to get better, and it typically doesn't until we deal with it.
And that's the hard part, is dealing with it. By the way, you had 35 people that you wanted to improve your. I don't even know 35 people.
36. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, it's, I mean, on that list, I had old college professors, some old college roommates, some old bosses, some old direct reports, some old colleagues, a bunch of ex-girlfriends. I actually, during that, I had a ex-wife that I needed to have a conversation with, and I had I was going through a divorce. And it's interesting because people will typically say, you know, why should I listen to someone who's about relationships who's been divorced twice? Well, I had one gentleman say during my training, he said, I started my training out with, I've been divorced twice. And he asked me after the training was over, he said, please don't tell people you're divorced twice at the beginning of training. I said, why not? He said, well, honestly, I judged you. He said, I thought, I've been married 40 years. You have nothing to teach me. So he said, I started reading a book, listening, doing something else. He said, about midway through the first morning, I heard something I really resonated. And he said, I started listening. He said, it's the best class I ever took. And I said, well, why not share that? Because other people will judge you. And I told him, I said, I can't make that promise, but can I use your story? And here's what I tell people. I'm just like you. I'm a work in progress. I would say I didn't have 2 failed marriages. I had 2 successful marriages that ended, because they taught me so much of what I learned through life to be able to help people with. And now I'm in an amazing marriage that is flourishing. It's been it's the best relationship I've ever had. And I also believe that would not have been possible had I not gone through those other things in life. And to me, that was turning those things that went sour into some of the crown jewels that I'm able to help people with.
Rochelle, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's extremely powerful. And I love what you said about the judgment and who people decide that they're going to listen to. And also, it ties in with you saying how you went from black to white and just this whole different scenario, because I've kind of done that. And I'm thinking about how people respect you, how you engage with them, and how you learn how you communicate. And then when you sit back enough to listen to how someone else communicates, you can learn how to correctly talk to them and ways to specifically say something or find that good timing that they're open and available. Because when you are the person who's going through the change and you're dealing with these people who have judged you and they see you in their own sense, but you're trying to change that, it can be really hard for them to know how to kind of maneuver with you, know how is she going to react now, because she used to just get mad about everything. And I see a lot of people come to me and they're very nervous. Hey, I want to talk to you about this, or I'm having a problem, or something's going on, and they expect me to blow up. So if you're comfortable enough to share what it was like for you to go from that to this person that people could just kind of come to and find peace in, and have it just be a calm relation, no matter the conversation and the conflict at hand.
Yeah, the unknown is you can never control the other person.
Right.
And that's just it. We don't know what we're walking into. People say, go have the conversation. But here's the problem. Most people have never learned how to have that conversation.
Right.
What do I do? And the biggest part of it is I've got to work on myself first. If I work on this, actually, I have the ability to influence the other person. I can't change them no matter what I do. So, Rochelle, if I'm in conflict with you, there's nothing I can do to change you. But when I manage my own emotions, when I make sure I create psychological safety in the moment for you, that you understand that I care and respect you, and that I care about your goals, you can begin to hear anything I say. Doesn't mean you'll agree, but we typically try to get the person to come to our side. We try to convince them. And see my perspective. One of the things I've learned, I need to understand yours before I can ever reach you about mine. And the thing I need to do as a leader, or as the person running it, I need to own my side of the street first. One of the things when I went and cleaned up those relationships, what I would do is I'd lay out my best intent. I'd say, hey, I'm trying to clean up some things in my life that didn't go so well. You might not have even known this was a problem, but my intent in having the conversation with you is to possibly make the relationship better, clean this up so we can both go on. And it might not even bother you. Some people didn't even know I was upset. But the other thing is, I also found there's power in speaking your truth. Sometimes I couldn't let it go till I said what I needed to say. And I needed to learn how to say it respectfully from the other person's perspective. So I'd go in and I'd lay out my good intent. I'd say, this is the reason I'm bringing it to you, and I'm at fault for letting it go here. I had to own my part. When you do those two things up front, it lays a foundation for you to land the plane, for actually to be able to have the rest of the conversation. And then how you put it together to speak that truth is important as well.
Very.
I got a question for you, young man, and that is, I've had a lot of, since I've been doing this work, and Rochelle can attest to this, I've had a lot of people come and go, and they're here for different reasons and stuff. And that sometimes when the relationship ends because it's not working at a certain level, especially in a professional relationship that we're doing, and then you respond, you give them a real clear email, and you talk to them a little bit, and you say why, but then they respond, and then they want you to respond back, and then you are continuing to fester an argument that has no resolution to it, because the decision has been made that, as an example, if somebody's not going to be on the show anymore, the decision has been made, but why, and why do you do, and then how do you avoid those never-ending email things? Because clearly they're not satisfied with the answer they got, so they're trying to continue the dialogue and to try and convince you that you were wrong in your initial assessment. I have not figured out how to do that yet.
Okay, I want you to, and this is fun because I like to play with what's really going on. So, Kevin, I'm going to ask, let's pick one of those that you can think of, the top of mind, okay? How long have you been going back and forth on email with that person? How many, was it been 5 minutes of emails, 10, an hour? How long do you think you've been back and forth on email on that?
6 months.
6 months, okay. Great. Now, perfect example. Someone say, you need to have the conversation, so stop doing it on email. And I'm going to suggest anytime it's emotional, you don't want to put it in text or email, because for anything you write, there's many interpretations, and they'll never accept the positive interpretation. It'll just be the negative interpretation. So you're dealing with an emotional issue logically. Emotion always trumps logic. They'll never hear it. So you've got to have an emotional conversation. When I say emotions, talk about what's creating that. And what I'm going to suggest, if you have the skills, you can take that 6 months and turn it into a 15-minute conversation.
Well, and Greg, great points, and we need to take a break. But when we come back, I got to ask you, because we did have a conversation,
Okay.
but I was less than honest in that conversation because, and I'll go into that when we come back from this break. It's just 45 seconds, so stay with us. Brachelle is here, and Brachelle knows exactly what I'm talking about, I think. So we'll, yeah, she's nodding and stuff. And you can chime in, Brachelle, if you have a mind to, and we'll be right back.
You became a real estate agent for freedom, success, and real momentum. So why are you still stuck waiting for closings to save you? I'm Ophir Adar, founder of Real Momentum, and I help agents like you become seven-figure earners. My first client that I coached, brand new agent, made $250,000 back in 2006. What's the secret? You feed your white wolf. That's the part of you that's bold and unstoppable and a closer and able to build rapport quickly. So click Get Listings at Real Momentum and let's unleash your real estate potential.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Brachelle. She's right there, right over there. And my name is Kevin McDonald, and Greg Stevens is with us. Go to his website again, Brachelle, which is
alignment-resources.com.
Okay, so getting back to this discussion, because of the job that I do I've created this radio show. I've done it for 20 years. I'm vested in it, emotionally vested in it and stuff. And when somebody comes along that I invite into my world because I think that they may be helpful or whatever, and then it turns out that they're not, or they're trying to take over, or they're making snide comments about some of the other people that are in my world and stuff. And so I make the determination that if I'm going to sleep at night, I have to let them not be part of my world anymore. And I try to make it as soft a landing as I could. Of course, what I said was, well, I just don't think I need a co-host. I'm just not going to have a co-host and stuff, because I can do these shows and I like to do them by myself. I've done them for a long time. And then, of course, 3 weeks or a month later, there's this young lady named Brachelle who I just could not turn down. And she has become, she replaced that. So it's kind of like, oh, you said you didn't need a co-host. Well, now you have a co-host. What's all that about? But I didn't want to go into all of that. Should I have?
Yeah, I think clarity is kind. So I think maybe Brene Brown said it that way, but part of it is helping that person understand, rather than looking at it as I'm letting them down. I changed the filter to say, I'm helping them for the next interaction. And what I'm going to do is be behaviorally specific. Hey, these were the things that, and don't start out with these are the things that didn't work for me. Just say, when I saw X, Y, Z, this is what happened. So for instance, can you give me one instance of out loud of what they might have done that didn't work for you?
Well, as an example, we have, I have a team and they create logos and we have logos on shows and stuff. And I get at 11 o'clock at night, my time. So he's East Coast. So it makes it even later his time.
Right.
And he made the comment, I think your logo is very snarky. Well, first of all, I don't even know what snarky means, but it was one of those things that when I was still up at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that conversation, is it a bad logo? Is it snarky? What does snarky mean? I had to look it up and this stuff, and so, but it was somebody trying to take control over something that they had no business exercising control over. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And the behavior is clear, and control is your perception. So when you send me things about the word snark, that my logo is snarky, late in the evening, I'm about to go to bed, it stays with me. It feels like you're trying to control the direction of the podcast or the show. And that doesn't work for me. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to. These are a couple of things. Tie those things to it and just say, it feels like you're trying to take control of the thing that I've created, and that doesn't work for me. And thank you very much. I appreciate you listening to my perspective. Something like that, but lay that out. These are the behaviors that don't work for me. That feels controlling. And if you want to hear their perspective, do you see it differently, or have I missed something? I think that's also respectful. Well, I didn't mean to be controlling. Well, it's just, you might not have meant to. That's the way I took it. And that just doesn't work for me. I need to find someone more that actually I work with a little better, that kind of gets me a little differently. I can't put it into words, and that's okay. It's my show. I get to make that decision. One of the things I've learned is that's a completion of a relationship, saying what you need to say, because it continues to bother us if we don't get that out there. Hey, it didn't feel good you controlling the show. This is my show. Yeah, that didn't feel good. That's not what I want. I wanted to find someone who didn't. I didn't even know that until they showed up. Because
exactly. Because then what I did was, because I value this person, he's been around a long time, he's been in PR and all that kind of stuff, and so I brought it up to the one who created the logo, who he said it was snarky, and who I value a great deal on my team, and I said, what do you think? Is that like snarky? And she said, oh, he's just trying to control the things and because there were some other things that had been brought to us, that are brought to me, that were changes that he thought were necessary, but that wasn't his place. And he even called, and he offended me greatly, and I didn't tell him this. He called my friend Rochelle an intern. And so it was like, you don't need to talk about other people. Like, where? So my first thought was, who in the hell do you think you are?
Right.
Kevin, can I pitch in real quick?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. No, and that's a good point too, also, because as you realize, I guess, when you grow, some people don't ever continue to grow up and realize this, but people are pretty much a mirror to you, either of your biggest insecurities or theirs. And a lot of times now, when I hear people talking, especially to me and Kevin, it's easy to kind of gauge how they feel about themselves based off of how they talk about situations and other people and things like that. And I have to ask you this, Greg, because there's some people that just won't, they're going to try to manipulate anything you say. They're going to try to just weave you in. You know what I mean? Like, they don't actually care. They're not really hearing you. They're just trying to manipulate you so that they can have what is best for them, or whatever they're trying to gauge, to have in their favor. What is so bad about or is it bad to just maybe at some point be like, you don't need an explanation. There need no conversation. I'm not going to explain something to you if you're not willing to understand, just so you can manipulate it, and to literally say nothing, to just tell them
Yeah.
you no longer want a relationship with them, you have no explanation, and you wish them the best. How is that bad? Because that's what I do. I will just stop talking to you. I will tell
Okay.
you straight up that we will no longer have a conversation, and I will seriously never talk to you again. Um, but I do see what you mean about holding it in, because I still hold on to things, even though I know that it may not even be worth it to say to them. So, what do you think
Well,
about all that?
well, I think that's exactly what I deal with all the time. And here's a couple of reasons why that happens, Rochelle. And I'll answer your question, but there's a lot packed in there. And part
Yeah.
of it is most of us have never been taught how to have these conversations, and we become the problem in the situation. What I'm going to suggest, Rochelle, is that you actually started that relationship with that person because you liked them. Somewhere along the way, it broke down, but you weren't able to speak your truth in a way that worked. And so we hold on to that, and it's easier to look at the other person. What I'm going to suggest is there's a quote I live by, and it's everything in my life I create, promote, or allow. Total responsibility. So if this relationship does not work, what did I do to create that, promote it, or allow it? Maybe I didn't speak up at certain times. Maybe when I did, I rolled my eyes or I said snarky things to them. Maybe there's things that I did that I need to take ownership of, speak my truth, to let that go and find out what happens. One of the things I find so often is when we are able to have the tools to do it, a whole different reality can ensue. Because we didn't know how. People say, go have the conversation, or I don't know how. What I'm going to suggest, Rochelle, what you've been doing is trying to keep yourself safe psychologically. That doesn't feel good. I'm not going to engage with that. But what if you had a different way, a different skill set, different tools to go in and see what's really underneath, manage yourself, speak your truth, being 100% candid while being 100% respectful. And then what's left for the other person is their behavior, not yours. Because what we tend to do, we look at the other person and they act exactly like we knew they would. But you know what? They're over there pointing the finger at us. And it's a downward spiral, and we're both right about it. And we both don't have relationship. But what if one person, that's the biggest thing about cleaning up relationships. What if in that situation you showed up as your 100% best and then you walked away from it? What that person's left with is their behavior, not yours. They can't blame you anymore. And what happens is when I start to look at my own behavior, I go, oh my gosh, I didn't do the best there. And it makes a shift many times in the relationship. I can't control you, but if I control me, the other person may have to change how they deal with me. And that's where I have my power. What I'm going to suggest, when you're avoiding a person, you're giving them your power, because they were never designed to have that power. They don't even know how to use your power. And it's in your head. They are taking space up in there. And I say, speak your truth so you keep your power. You don't give it to others. You don't avoid. That was my criteria for the 36 I needed to clean up, Kevin. It was, if I walked down the hall and I had an alternative to walk away from that person rather than right past them, that was a relationship I needed to clean up. I wanted to be able to look people in the eye and be able to say, I've spoken my truth. You know where I stand. I'm going to be my best as best I can. And that's the freedom part of it, because then it's not the other person. I can manage a whole lot. And many of the relationships never wanted to. There's many of these conversations, I don't get what I want. For instance, let me give you one example. Do we have time? Do we need to go to another break?
Well, let me take this break because this is important, and because we might even talk about my ex-wife at one point, but that would be truly frightening. But Greg Stevens is our guest, and Rochelle, what's his website again?
His website is alignment-resources.com. And yes, let's take this break and get back into this conversation. I want you to explain what you have to say, and then I'm going to kind of shift the question I asked you before and see what your perspective is on that. So don't go anywhere, anybody. It's literally just a minute.
And that's right. And by the way, Greg, I am a serial nice guy and a people pleaser. And so consequently, none of those things play well in my world. So we will be right back after this minute and 10. Stay with us.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Rochelle. And my name is Kevin McDonald, and we've got Greg Stevens here. And this is a very cool, uncomfortable conversation to be having with anybody. But Rochelle, go ahead and rephrase the question that you wanted to re-ask Greg.
Yes, well, I'll back up a little first. It's funny, Greg, how you say that, because me and Kevin both have that, and a lot of what you were saying, I think, is more him. He's just, like, as I thought about it more, it's just like, but he still will give a response. And I want to rephrase the question this way, because this is how I've been handling things as I changed and realized that I don't go in and heal past relationships by ever talking about something that the other person did at this point. I will tell them where I come from, what I was feeling, and what I apologize for, how I let the situation even come into play. And I've done that a lot recently with myself because I've learned to do it with other people, especially my little cousin, and situations that are happening. And she comes to me and she says, I don't understand how it got to this point. And I say, okay, well, what did you do to allow this situation to even come into play? And what did you do? Where were you in this? And then I started kind of doing that with myself. And so when I talk to people, it's not the you, because that gets you nowhere. I've learned that all my life. And so now I'm like, hey, this is where I stand. This is where I'm coming from. I apologize for this. I'm sorry. And I'd like to let this go at peace. I don't want anything in this relationship to be still standing. And it keeps it from having to over-explain or have there be any blame, but very minimal things need to be said, and then you can walk away from that, rather than how you have these conversations that just don't end because you give somebody space to manipulate. And that still happens no matter what. If you tell somebody how you're feeling or where you're at, where you stand, they're still, oh, well, I'm so sorry, and we didn't mean it like that, and I still want to be close to you and whatever. And that's when you have to learn to set boundaries respectfully, or just not say anything at all. That's what I meant at that point, is if you've spoken your piece and your truth and you've apologized and then the conversation doesn't end, is it horrible to just not respond after that point?
I think horrible or anything. Folks, you have to, you are in charge of your life. Yeah. That's one of the things people say, should I have this conversation? I don't know. Should you? You're the one carrying it around. I'm not. So I can only speak for me What I will say, Michelle, is there's a healthy space to go. When I work with groups, what relationships do you need to clean up? Which ones do you want to improve? And which ones do you want to complete? And you can even complete a relationship with someone you work with every day. I'm going to complete that part of it, but it holds no power over you anymore. There's not a bad feeling. You've let it go. Sometimes you have to make a physical break with that person. There's been a situation where people don't respect your boundaries. And if they're going to continue to step over those boundaries, and I've come to them, I can say at that point, I don't want to have a relationship anymore. I can't engage with you anymore. And I won't. I just won't engage with you. There's a clear boundary you continue to step over. But I've got to be consistent with how I'm doing that so they understand where that boundary is. Because many times we have these imaginary boundaries that we think people should adhere to, but we've never spoken about it and laid out the boundary and then caringly held them accountable to that boundary. Typically, we might attack in that moment. I want to guide people. I got to teach that boundary to others. But Michelle, I love what you're saying because you went and owned your part. One of the things I was going to talk about before was there was one person that an organization I worked with, they changed the whole format of what they were doing. They put someone who's in charge of the group of trainers, and they changed everything that they were doing. Well, I found that we were all talking about the new person. And then I realized, you know what? I teach this stuff. I need to go have the conversation. So I called the person up, and he has the ability to fire me, let me go, everything. But I said, hey, I need you to know I've been talking about you behind your back to some of the other people. Here's exactly what I've been saying. I apologize. I hope you keep me on, but I understand if you don't. But you can expect me to always be straight with you from this point on. I really apologize. And it was sincere. And there was a dead silence. And he said, Greg, it surprises me that you would do that, but it doesn't surprise me that you'd clean it up. And for the next 2 years, he still worked with the organization. But anytime there was an issue, I'd call him up and tell him exactly how I thought. But I did it respectfully. And in that 2 years, we did not agree on one thing. But you know what? He's in charge. He got to say, no, we're not going to do it your way. You're not going to do it your way. Never got what I wanted. But you know what? When I walked into a room, he walked across and shook my hand first because he respected me. He knew he was always going to hear the truth, and I always kept my head high, and I knew what I was dealing with. But it's interesting because I outlasted him. I was with the organization for a lot longer, but at the same time, that wasn't my position. That wasn't my power. My power was within. It wasn't about a position. It was me saying what I needed to say. And I find so often, Rochelle, it starts with owning what you did, like with your cousin, owning out, apologizing, coming out and doing that. That's what I can control.
Very good. Kevin, do you have a question?
I have a question and a thought.
Okay.
Because, and I think that this is common for entrepreneurs, and I'd love your take on it. For years, I was in corporate America, and I worked for somebody else. They signed my paycheck, and I had a responsibility to them to make sure that the business ran effectively and efficiently. So therefore, I did not put up with somebody who was retarding that mission. And so I had no qualms with saying, I'm sorry, but you're not fitting the company ideals and what we're trying to get done here. And so I'm going to have to let you go. And I did it on behalf of somebody else. Fast forward to my own company. I now am Rochelle's laughing at me. I now am the boss, and I don't have a boss who over me that I need to report to. So now I'm much more flexible, and I'm not willing. I don't make those hard decisions and make it happen necessarily because until it gets to a point way down the road. And is that common in entrepreneurs?
Oh, I believe it's the one thing that actually slows their progress and gets in their way. It creates the drama in organizations because the truth's not getting told, and the pain gets deeper and deeper. And as you put it off, one of the things I talk to people about, let's say you have a problem on Friday with a person, and you think you can tie up the conversation today, but you think, I'm going to put it off till Monday. Well,
or Tuesday, or maybe a week from Friday.
It goes on and on, typically. But then let's say Monday comes around and now you're really nice to me. Oh, I don't have to have the conversation with Kevin. But 2 weeks later, that same thing comes up again. And now I'm actually not back where I was. I'm below it. I'm mad because I didn't do it, but I'm going to blame them because I didn't have the Why do they have to be so difficult? So again, it's on a Friday. I say I put it off on Monday. Here's the thing. Monday comes around. I still have to have that conversation. And I just wasted my entire weekend of peace. I don't know. I've had everything built up in my head about how it will go or anything else. What if I would have just had it effectively on Friday? I have the entire weekend to actually solve problems, look at what's going on. But the thing is we don't understand what I call emotional accounting. If we were to put it on a spreadsheet, I'd look at the investment and the cost. A cost is when you don't get anything back. An investment is do it soon. I want to invest. It's going to be difficult. I don't want the difficult conversation. I want what comes after the difficult conversation. That's what you got to look at. It's an investment. You put out something early, an investment, it grows. A cost, you're never going to get it back. And so that's why we have to look at this. And as entrepreneurs, I understand. I'm the boss. I don't want to have to deal with that drama. I don't have to deal with that issue. I've got to do them myself because I have 2 businesses. And I've got one I've got to have right now because I found someone didn't tell me the truth the other day about something. It was a little white lie, but I'm about integrity. Do I want to have the conversation? No. Now, the good part is I know when I have the conversation, there's a respect that comes with it when I do it effectively. That person feels valued and cared for, that I brought it up in an effective way, and it actually makes the relationship stronger. That's what I want. I don't want to have the conversation, but that's the only way I've found to get there. But we don't want to have it many times because we don't know the skill sets. I'm skilled and I still don't want to have it, but I know what's on that other side. And that's what I help executives do, or business owners, how to have that effectively. And that's one thing that most people say is, I know how to lean into those conversations in an effective way that builds the relationship now. And that's what I hope for people. My hope is that we all work together. It's amazing what human beings can do when we're in alignment. But it's amazing what we can tear down when we're divided. But we're typically divided at the relationship level, not the concept level of what we need to do. But if we pull that together, everything else falls into place easier, but it's hard to do. And you either pay up front or it's going to cost you in the long run.
Well, and you said something that was a key thing, and which was, we hardly ever agreed in those 2 years, but we respected each other.
Mm-hmm.
I've come across a lot of relationships with people. I know it used to confuse me when I was young because I was like, you guys don't even, to me, it was like, you guys don't even like each other. But then in person, there was respect. And a key thing about that also that you brought up is talking behind someone's back. Whether you agree with them or not, you don't need to spend time talking to someone else of all things about it, because that cuts out that respect of the relationship. And then also, I've been that person, especially recently, like, I used to say this about you and I did this, and someone will ask me, did you used to feel this way? Yeah, actually I did, and here's why. But I love how you focus so much on there being respect, whether you're agreeing or whether you're not. And I know we need to take a break here in a minute, but when we come back, I want to touch on what you can do in a new relationship or current relationship to set some guidelines or maybe some boundaries, or know how to progress and build this relationship without having these things come up or continue to cause issues, and be able to have respect. Because everybody keeps asking me lately, like, what is your bottom line, and I get very, very worked up about it because it is so simple, but it's so complicated for us as humans, which is normal. We're human. Like, not everything is supposed to be perfect, but my biggest thing, my only thing is respect. I don't even care if you don't like me. I don't care about what's in your head, but if you can't respect me, then that's an issue, and we can't have a, a relationship like that. So, yes, I want to touch on how people can go into relationships or fix the ones they're in and see themselves so that um, these things don't just come up and then we're like, what is going on? This is so out of the blue.
By the way, we're talking with Greg Stevens, and his website again, Brachelle, is
Alignment-resources.com.
I would call him I'd have a conversation because he's helping us to realize that maybe what we thought we'd done well, we hadn't really, done all that well. So we need to take a break, and we'll be right back. Listen to this. This is from the heart, from Positive Talk Radio. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this: be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. And welcome back to Positive Talk. Greg, I got to ask you, what did you think of that little commercial?
I was about to say, I love that commercial because it's so spot on. We need kindness. We need that respectful hand coming out, and we got to be responsible. That we lead by example, I think.
I couldn't agree more. And but Prashal, go ahead with what you were saying going into the break.
Yeah, just touching base on what we can do either in current situations and relationships or a new relationship where we are already learning ourselves and taking a look at the problems at hand that can become and unfold, and how we can avoid that. Is it the same or is it kind of a different process based off if it's a new person or not? Yes, Kevin.
Greg, I have to add to that, which is I have been through, in the time that I've been doing this, I've had 5 or 6 people that have done the exact same thing of what we talked about earlier. Several of them have given me a contract. Even though I was just allowing them in. Is there a way to head it off at the past and know that this is going to come down the pike and then to cut it off early? Or are you then not giving them the benefit of the doubt?
I think you've used all your past experience because it's been given to you for a reason, and you state those things up front. This contract or this has nothing to do with our relationship yet. We're about to start, but here's some things that I ran into in the past. I want to make sure we have agreements about them going forward. And so, Rochelle, I'm going to use you as an example because I think, and I want you to engage with me if that's okay.
Okay.
So, because I want to give people a sense of how it might sound, because having this conversation is awkward at the beginning until you get used to doing it. So it might sound something like this. Rochelle, do you want me to treat you with respect from how you define it or how I define it?
Well, I think it'd be better how I define it because I understand it from my point of view.
Great. I love that. And I want to be respected how I define it. So I tell you what, I'll respect you how you define it. And I'm going to ask you to respect me how I define it. And I'm going to ask you in a second how you define respect. Just for sake here to help you out, I'm going to lead. I define respect as give me the benefit of the doubt. And if I don't deserve the benefit of the doubt, tell me why, because it's a blind spot. I never mean to treat you disrespectfully, and that will help me learn. Also, I find it disrespectful if you talk to others rather than me. You're welcome to talk to others if you're preparing to talk to me, but talk to me about the issues if you would. Would that be okay?
Yeah,
So
that is perfectly
that's the
fine.
agreement. Now, how do you define respect? Because I want to hear that, and I want to treat you with respect from that perspective. So how would you give me that? How do you know when you're being respected, Rochelle?
Yeah. I would say that I define respect as understanding that no matter the issue or the task that is in front of us, conflict or not, that I still respect you, I have love for you, and I care for you, but also I want nothing but the truth. And no matter the emotions that you're having, I ask that you calm yourself before you talk to me. And if you do decide to speak to somebody else, please maybe wait until after you have spoken to me.
Great. Thank you. And I appreciate the space for that. Now, if you feel like I fail to treat you respectfully like that, would you please pull me aside one-on-one and let me know?
Yes. I would love
Great.
to do that.
I'll do the same. And that's how you start a respect conversation. Now you can actually, now I know I'm not guessing. And we've given permission. Now, what is the intent of our relationship? What do we want to do? What do we want to create together? What is our purpose in approaching this business situation or even romantic situation? What do we want in the world together? I want to make sure we're aligned in that. And what agreements do we need to put in place to make sure that happens? Because we typically live on assumptions, and we only get upset when we assume something's going to happen and it doesn't. That's it. We get it. And have I clearly laid it out? And if we make an agreement, how do we handle if we break our agreements with each other? Let's have an agreement how we handle broken agreements. It takes time. But what you're going to find, even though I have the best intent, Rochelle has the best intent. You know what? There's going to be a time, if I'm around Rochelle long enough, I'm going to feel like she disrespected me. There's going to be a time she's going to feel like I disrespected her. That's going to be a major moment right there. Do we keep our word and talk about it? If we do, we build trust in that relationship because there's honesty. If we push it off because it's uncomfortable, we're lying to the other person and to ourselves. And that is rot that hurts a relationship.
That is a very good point. And you brought up assumption. I think that's huge right now in so many people's relationships. And even with themselves, they will manipulate themselves into assuming something else rather than dealing with the reality of it. And the other person will do the same. And then it will be like, oh, nothing ever happened. And like you said, it builds and it builds. But starting a conversation off by telling somebody, this is how I feel for you, and these are my boundaries, and this is what is important to me. I don't want this to ever come between us in a negative effect. And let's be able to handle this as adults. When you have that conversation with somebody right off the bat, you can tell pretty much how they respond to it and what they say by how much they value themselves and respect themselves. Also, because you can't expect someone from something else they cannot give. That's your wrong of doing, in my opinion. If you know that person can't provide that, don't do that. And a lot of things, this comes up with me, especially in the last 6 months, is, oh, I'm sorry, I just assumed. And I get so upset. And I try to be so calm because to me, I let them know, hey, that hurts my feelings. That's not fair to me. Also, why didn't you just come and talk to me and not have an assumption and just get the truth? And that's because that foundation of the relationship was not set off of any sort of respect or peace or understanding. It's always just an attack. And so what you said, Greg, can be a shape shift in a relationship that's already played out for years, to sit down and just say what we just said, because people change. Also, we're supposed to. That's good. And your boundaries and your situations, everything's going to change. But when you reevaluate where you're at with somebody and just let them know, I think it can bring such a peace of mind to you, but also to that person. And it allows them the space to respect you, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah. Well, it gives you solid footing. When I have an agreement with you, I have solid footing when accountability needs to happen. If you don't have
There it is.
agreements and you're assuming, you're in quicksand when you try to hold someone accountable. You start to, you have no grounding. But if I have an agreement, I can actually say, how many families have agreements about how money will be spent, how the kids will be disciplined, what we're going to do, what decisions need to be made together, which ones do we need to make on our own. When we don't have those agreements, and there's never ending. The other thing that's great about an agreement, you can always go back and renegotiate an agreement.
Yep.
You can't really renegotiate an assumption.
That's
So
very true.
you actually have solid ground. It takes time. And we say, oh, I don't have time for that. Think of the alternative, folks. Look at the divorce rate. Look at how the drama that happens in business. Look at how, the finger pointing that goes on. Everything else takes much longer.
How many sleepless nights do you have because you have an assumption that, and then you go to work the next day and you say, I assumed this, and they say, no, that wasn't anything, and now you've wasted a complete night's sleep that you didn't get because you assumed something that was incorrect. Is that fair?
That's spot on. Spot on.
And I hate that we're running out of time with you, Greg. I know I say this kind of often, but please, will you come back? Because we just scraped the surface talking about conflict, and there's so much deeper of a knowledge that you have that I would love to pull out of you. But I want you to take the next minute or two to share anything that you would with our audience to hear, to leave them with today. And then tell us about your website and all those kinds of things so people can reach you and come and get some help.
Yeah. The reason I do the work I do is so people can have great relationships. I believe your relationships are the most important, valuable asset in your life, beyond money, beyond anything else. Relationship with your spouse, your kids, your community, your friends. Where do they fall in there? And it's the thing that's going to feed you. So that's what I work with. We have programs called a master team where we take people for a 6-month program over 20 weeks. We teach them the skills to go have these conversations. And what's great is they have them the rest of their lives. We do a group for executives. We have executives or business owners that work with us. And then we've also just recently started working with people from 21 to 28 years old. So if parents want to give their kids a leg up, and we're teaching that age the skill sets most executives have problems with. What a great way to start a leadership life, to be able to speak your truth. Give that to your kids. So that's what we have in our master teams. You can look us up on alignment-resources.com. Brichelle said that each time today. Tell a little about us. And that's the work we do. We have other training programs as well. But I spend my time wanting people to understand, to live the life they want around their relationships and be powerful in their word. And my goal is for people to cherish that, to be able to speak their truth respectfully for the rest of their life and know how to lean in to conflict they normally actually try to avoid.
That is sensational. And by the way, and we didn't get a chance to do it, so that's why you have to come back. I want to explore the concept of a white lie. Is a white lie really a white lie? Or is it just based upon your perception that it's a white lie, but it might be a big, fat lie to somebody else in their perception? So we need to talk about that next time you're here. Brichelle, thank you. You've had some awesome questions today.
Well, thank you. I love being here. This has been so good with you, Greg. I can't wait to have you back. We need to dig a little bit deeper. And yes, everybody who's listening to this, go visit alignment-resources.com. There's so many things on there, even just to learn if you're on there for 5 minutes. So take that time. And I myself will be working with you, Greg. So we'll see how good I become in the next 6 months.
Oh, I think I'm in trouble now. So, thank you, guys. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Rochelle. And everybody have a great day. And it's a rule. Make it a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin at KMmedia.